Okay. So we are recording, and it's my pleasure today to have the lovely Mariska Swartz here. She is a phenomenal, absolutely amazing yoga teacher from South Africa. She's lived all around the world, USA, New Zealand. She now lives in Noosa, in the beautiful place you can see, which is her yoga studio. And yes, I just wanted to have Mariska on because she's one of those rare teachers that takes yoga beyond the physical and into a space where you actually get that yoga is more than just being, doing your downward dogs and things. So hi, Mariska, lovely to have you here.
Hello, Megan and everyone who's going to be listening. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to the experience.
That's fantastic. I know you've got some wonderful insights. Whenever I've done a class with you, I've come away just feeling calm and transformed. So just maybe tell us a little bit, first of all, how you got into yoga, a little bit about your journey so people get a sense of where you've been.
Yes. So I, like Megan mentioned, I grew up in South Africa and then I went to America when I was about 21. And tennis was my background. So I played a lot of tennis as a kid and then pursued tennis. So I ended up with a scholarship in America. And after that studies there, I ended up in Philadelphia. So I was teaching tennis. And a friend from South Africa said, let's go try this yoga class. And I've never done yoga, but I had an image in my mind that, yoga is easy. It's just and you wear, a leotard. So I had this really crazy little idea about yoga. And the studio we went to was, it was a heated class, a vinyasa or a power yoga class.
Right. Your first example of power yoga. Yes.
Yeah. But I loved it because it was very challenging. In a different way. Yes, there was the physical challenge, but then there was the mental. And coming from the background of tennis, you use your mind a lot and you have to focus.
Yeah.
Just right away, I was like, I'm doing this for the rest of my life.
Wow.
So at the beginning, just one class. And then after that, I was still in Philadelphia for about another 5 years. And I would just go, to as many classes as I could. And every time after a class, I would just feel so good. So I just, I kept going. So that's kind of how it started, just very physically. Just a real physical practice where you sweat, you feel cleansed. Then, of course, like anything, right? This is now 20 years ago when I started.
Yes, wow.
10 years into the journey of being a student and practicing, I did my own teacher training. And that's when I, learned kind of the deeper practices as well as, the asanas. And from there on, it feels for me, it's kind of kept going more and more subtle.
Yes.
So especially anyone who's listening, maybe you've never done yoga and you're like me, you have some idea of it. And it's not always the truth because there's so many different forms of yoga these days. And so in yoga, we call it, the asana is the physical poses, but that's just like a little bit of what actually yoga is. So there's many, different styles out there. And I think when you need to be a little bit overwhelming because you're like, where do I begin? And, one of my teachers would always say, you begin where you are. So if you're searching for something and you're feeling like it's maybe something you want to try, is, you just start trying some yogas. If it doesn't align with you or you just don't feel called to go back, then just let that be so and keep trying. It's maybe a little bit like, sometimes you have something you're struggling with health-wise, and maybe the first person don't get you the solution or the help.
Yes.
But often I believe in you keep trying.
Yes. And keep looking. It's good advice. It's rather than being put off the first time because it doesn't suit you. And, you know, we've all got different physical abilities. I mean, what would you think that there's a type of yoga that if you were physically less capable to do all the exercises, would you still say that yoga was suitable?
Yes. So I would say this is a yoga I discovered maybe another teacher 5 years ago, and it's called yin yoga. And it's not a strenuous practice. It's more of a deep, you stretch. So it's all done on the floor. So you don't need to be, so super strong or what's the word, physically capable, right? Sometimes you're struggling, right? But this is a beautiful practice because it's more subtle, and it goes to the energy of the feminine. So it's nurturing. And I would say, I had a child 5 years ago, and when I have time now, I start with yin. I do yin yoga.
Yeah, I love it too, I must say.
It's nurturing, and it's also, it looks after our organ health. So often, we're tired. There's a beautiful practice that's for the kidneys and the urinary bladder channel in the body. And so those are like my go-to ones when I have a little bit of time to do that. In yin, you also learn to become more still, where, a lot of us, I would say, our minds are busy.
Yes.
Want to learn how to settle. And so this is a really good way, is to start with yin yoga, especially people who are less inclined for the physical side of it. I've met a lot of people, wow, they're in love with yin.
Yeah.
Because it's quite different.
And then for some people who love that physical challenge, the more strenuous yoga is amazing. But I always remember there's a certain quote, and I don't know if it's accurate, but that yoga, the positions were really just so that our body was comfortable with sitting still, so that we could become still mentally. And, my experience of being in contact with yoga now, and the whole Indian side of it as well, is that there's so many different limbs of it. And that coming back to stillness is something that's really needed right now, especially with this COVID situation and all the turmoil, all the changes and possibly opportunities we have for transformation in this world. I think yoga's a nice thing to come home to. So what would you suggest in regards to using yoga as a tool to still the mind or find peace amongst the turmoil?
I would say a good place, again, I'll come back to yin, is to start with yin, especially if you're someone who's wanting to still the mind, but you haven't done a lot of meditation, maybe a little bit newer. In the way I teach yin, and what I learned from my teacher, is using the poses as little mini practices. Because in yin, we hold the poses sometimes 3 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes. And I guide people, sometimes I'll give them something to focus on. You learn about mindfulness in yin, you can, depending on, your teacher. And then learning to, first to concentrate the mind. Because first you got to get to know your mind before it becomes more calm and quiet.
It's true.
So getting to just to see, wow, all the thinking and whatever is going on, that's the beginning. Because if you don't see, then you can't move forward. So when people they try to still, they actually feel busier because they start to see now. And
isn't that true?
Because that is actually where you begin. You start to notice all the thoughts, and you start to realize that, I don't actually have to believe everything I think. For me, that was huge. Because these are actually just stories. Who says they're true? You can, explore that. And so in yin, you get these little opportunities to quiet, because we're not moving physically. The poses you stay, our energy gets more gathered. So in that process, you actually, post yin, you feel quite spacious and more still. So for me, it kind of comes back to yin, but definitely there could be other ways too. Even something like, if people have heard of, it's called yoga nidra.
Yes.
I quite like that practice too, where you're just laying on your back and someone guides you. It's like a guided meditation. Really good. I sometimes do it at night before bed, and actually sometimes fall asleep while I'm doing it. It's trying not to fall asleep, but when you relax so deeply, sometimes we go to sleep. But yeah, yoga nidra is a great way to just learn to relax, and someone guides you. You're in their hands and you lay on your back. There's, many different practices of that. It's also a good way. It could even be done in the middle of the day. I've done that, where just in the middle of the day, lay on my back and you relax. It's like a reset. That's called yoga nidra.
Yoga nidra.
Yeah.
So yoga nidra and yin yoga are good for stilling the mind. And then also there is that experience when you've done a busy quick class, when you do the yoga nidra in the end, and suddenly you go, oh, wow, this feels great.
Yeah. And that is great, because when you've done physical movement and maybe exercise, sometimes the mind is now more ready to let me relax. My body is now a little tired.
Yeah.
And more ready sometimes to be guided. So yes, that is very good too.
Excellent. So I guess for anyone who wants to explore it, as you say, maybe just test out a class, or, there's lots of good things online now. Actually, Mariska, you're doing some classes online that people can access and try if they want?
I do, yeah. Since what's happened, as of recent, I just, started to embrace teaching online, and I've just created like a library of all my classes. So up till now, I have like over 40 classes.
Wow.
In my library, and different ones, and meditations are on there as well. So yes, that'd be great. People can give it a try, and even try yin and see how they feel.
Well, I think that's extremely generous of you. So if we put a little link down below I think it might only be open for a certain time. Can people come and have a little check out at what you're doing? And
yes, totally. That'd be great. They can reach out to me and tell me how they went.
Thank you for your generosity. Well, I love talking. I hope people enjoyed that little bit, because I think it's important for us to understand that yoga has so much ability to also help us be at peace and still, and that you don't have to be an athlete to do it. So thank you for your guidance, Mariska.
You're so welcome. And I hope to meet some of you who are practicing. Please reach out. And thank you for having me.
Anytime. Enjoy your beautiful day there.
Thank you.
We'll speak soon. Bye. Bye-bye.